The Great Debaters Contest is powered by Blaze, by Safaricom, the Youth Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Great Debaters Contest. We have camped here in Kakamega region, and I'm your host, Austin Nyumbok.
And I am Mariam Bishar. St. Cecilia Girls Goes versus Musingu High School, and they're debating on whether Africa needs international military intervention to solve most of her dire conflict. We'll have them take the stage now. First proposer, you have 3 minutes.
It's for how long are we not going to swallow our pride that Africans, we cannot manage better by ourselves, but we need help. That is why I strongly propose the motion, Africa needs international military convention to solve our most dire conflict. Africa is a continent, and of course, embroidered by the African people. Need is what we require, not just what we want, but what we require that is important. International military convention, support connected with armed forces from outside. Solve is to find a solution to something dire, a very serious, very serious and bad state. Conflict, situations in which people, groups, or country are involved in serious disagreements. Look at the democratic state of Ivory Coast. They go with the rule of the people, by the people, and for the people. But as the elections, Alassane was elected as the president, but Laurent Gbagbo of Ivory Coast refused to step down. Won't this lead to conflict? Want it to lead to violence? And this violence, what will it lead to? Of course, death of people, destruction of resources. But it is due to the United Nations who came up with the military forces to help Ivory Coast. Rwandan genocide of the 1994, where the Tutsi and the Hutu are estimated, leading to 500,000 people to 1 million people death. But Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, could not solve it. He needed help. Help from the United Nations. And not just help, they needed his military wing to solve its problem. We say, if plan A can't work, we try on plan B. What is our plan B? Our plan B is seeking help from the military intervention so that we can solve our dire problems. Are we going to sit down and watch people die? To sit back and just be comfortable that because we want to embroider that us Africans, we can manage by ourselves. And yet, through this, we can't. It has proved that we can't manage by ourselves unless we have the help that we require from the military intervention, because it has proved to save life. It has proved to ease the tension. Why can't we embroider that? Why can't we comply to that? Because that is what we require. We require military intervention to solve on our dire conflict. Sitawa Marion, St. Cecilia Girls.
Musingu High School, you have 3 minutes to make for your opening statements.
Africa needs international military intervention to solve dire conflicts. Military intervention means use of military forces to address extraordinary suffering of peoples. For example, genocide or civil wars resulting from human conflict. Conflict here, meaning disagreement among people. The first step to losing a war is accepting defeat in the first place. Accepting international military intervention in Africa perpetuates imperialism. The 1994 genocide that took place in Rwanda, it is estimated that 884,000 people were killed within a span of 120 days. That is 3 months. James Woods, the Deputy Assistant Secretary for African Affairs in the Department of Defense of USA at that time, said, and I quote, "Take it off the list. US interests are not involved, and we can't put all these silly humanitarian issues on the list." This shows that they are not willing to put their armies to provide military support to Rwanda. However, this is contrasted with the 4 years later, we find that the US bombing, the bombing of the US embassy in Kenya in 1998, the United States government was quick to take action to help, assist, and recover the injured people. Also, although our international military intervention may remove existing conflict, it can also lead to emergence of many other conflicts. This is seen in Libya, that even after Gaddafi was removed from power and killed in 2011, there is no change. In fact, the progress of Libya has been stagnated. An organization known as ISIS is expanding, according to The Guardian, an international newspaper of the 16th of February 2016. A report by Chris Stephan. Gaddafi was removed from power in 2011 by the NATO powers. However, there's no progress that it has made. Similarly, the French-led intervention in the Central African Republic, even with the coup last year, and the switch of government all of a sudden, peace and security has not been restored in the country. The inability of peacekeepers to protect the civilians, even after disarming these civilians, has led them to a very fragile political situation. I would like to ask the proposers to please join us to oppose the motion. Thank you.
St. Cecilia girls will hear a rebuttal. You have 3 minutes.
Africa, Africa, Africa. For how long are we Africans gonna bury our heads in the sand? Democracy, we lack democracy amongst ourselves. We think that we have the democracy, but we do not. We continue fighting amongst ourselves. Ask yourself this question. How many times have we Africans tried to control these dire conflicts amongst us? We have tried so many times through the African Union Charter, but we have not been able to manage this. So that means that we should look for help. We should look for support from other nations, and that is international nations. Because Africans right now, we are one nation. We are talking as a united Africa. So therefore, we should come together and look for more help from international forces. Unjust leaders in Africa. Do you know of President Jean Bokassa of Angola? If you don't know, then allow me to tell you. President Jean Bokassa of Angola is a dictator. And what he did, he appointed his brother-in-law to be the chief military officer of Angola. Ask this question again. Is that brother-in-law going to work according to the people's needs, or he is going to work according to the father-in-law? For how long are we Africans going to cry of injustice? For how long are we going to try to think that we can control things for ourselves, yet we do not? Let's join hands, we as Africans. Let's sign charters with the United Nations. Ask this question. 97% of African countries, they sign charters with the United Nations. What is the work of the United Nations? To control peace and security in African countries. Then you still want to stick with Africa. You need help. Africans really do need help. Then swallow your pride. Let us join hands and sign charters with them. Because that is what we want. We are tired of seeing Africans being killed. We are tired of these tribal conflicts. We need international help. Agidza Nicole, proposing side, St. Cecilia girls.
Opposers, you have 3 minutes to give a rebuttal.
I am shocked. First, we are proud, we as the Africans, that we fought for our own independence. And we cannot go back, because when we will need this military to intervene, the Africans, that will mean like they want to colonize us again, and we are not ready. It's high time we Africans stand in unity and say no to that. You are saying that Africa is one state. It's all states in Africa that experience conflicts, like South Africa. The international military intervention compromises on our economy. If a country accepts international military intervention, this becomes a waste of resources in that country. It is believed that the country has used resources to train its soldiers and buy equipment. But if we go for the military intervention from the international level, then why is there any need for us to train our African military soldiers? What is the need for us to buy equipment? Participating in international military intervention results to a lot of suffering from participating African countries. A country's soldiers are killed, people die. I take an example, like in September 2013, the terror attacks in the Westgate, where 67 people died. I go to Garissa University, where 148 students died. This is perpetuated by the Al-Shabaab, who are said to be retaliating against the Kenyans who are participating in the Amazon. As I look into my conclusion, one of the world's renowned celebrities, neurosurgeon Dr. Ben Carson, once said that the greatest obstacle to progress is lack of self-belief. And we as the Africans, to be the military giant, we should implant the mentality of self-belief and solve the problem by ourselves, either dire or not.
Thank you very much. The proposition have been asked what specific needs or interventions would these foreign militaries come to make here? And the opposition have been tasked with answering, if we are capable of depending on ourselves, then why do we still depend on imports for things like fighter jets and other security apparatus? We'll have them respond. Third proposer, you have 3 minutes.
What will this international military intervention bring to us as Africans? Well, one of the things that this international military will bring is equipment. Africa, what do we have? To be honest, what do we have? We don't have drones, we don't have submarines, we don't have atomic bombs. And these are the things that this international military have. Equipments are brought to Africa, then we can solve this dire conference that we have. Our colleagues say that Al-Shabaab are killing Africans, be it specific, Kenyans. Now, what is the solution to that? International militaries. We have tried it before, haven't we? We have tried it to look upon leaders. There are certain things in Africa that even the leaders can't solve. Even the country itself can't solve. But international military is the solution to these dire conflicts that we have in Africa. In Africa, men rape women. How are we going to solve that? How are we going to solve that if not the international military to come and help us? We lack skills. Even our military soldiers, we lack skills. That's a fact that we should keep in our mind. We talk facts here. Recently, it has been reported that the women in Congo were raped by fellow Africans. And still you want to say that we stick together? It hurts. Being raped with a fellow Kenyan, a black skin. And yet, we are here still saying that we don't need international militaries. We need them. I'm still sticking. We need international military to solve this serious problems that we have in Africa. Purity Odawa, proposing side.
Thank you. Musingu School, you have 3 minutes to respond to the audience.
From what my expensive golden watch is telling me, it's time I educate you, my fellow friends. I will start by answering the question from the audience. She asked, why do we depend on the jets? She said something about jets were imported. You know, for one, you're in high school. You're studying. You're studying to be someone like, let's say, for example, a doctor, an engineer. Once you're intelligent, the foreign government will want your knowledge. You will not work for your country. And I quote, kitanda usichokilalia hujui kunguni mwake. Don't get me wrong. We don't know the intention of this military from the international organizations. Take, for example, when Libya wanted to overthrow Gaddafi, Gaddafi was a very powerful president. They could not do it. But with the aid of the US under the NATO, they overthrew him. But in return, the US wanted to take the oil investments, which was against Gaddafi rules. You know, one thing about Gaddafi, if you're not a Libyan, you're not supposed to use the resources in Libya. So the US took this advantage and helped Libya to kill Gaddafi so that they take the oil investments for their interest. To my second point, why we should not let the international military intervention to solve our conflicts is that accepting international military assistance undermines the efforts of our forefathers, which are the freedom fighters. This is my father who fought for this country. Your forefather, our forefathers. What are they going to say? I'm sure where they are right now, they are very disappointed. We are letting other people who colonized us to use our country's resources. This is our blood which fell down. What do you expect them to say? And, you know, I like bloggers. One of a blogger known as Amadou, who works in the website known as Africa on Focus, did a research in the Central African Republic, and he said, and I quote, "Due to the French intervention in Central African Republic, it is said that the country remains and will remain for a while on support from France in the international community, which restricts her margin to maneuver." Imagine you're in a country, but you cannot enjoy the freedom what people fought for. This blood did not go to waste. Samson Brown from Musingu High School. An African born in Africa, raised in Africa, and I will die as an African. Thank you.
Final statements now. Saint Cecilia, you have 1 minute.
Our forefathers, I don't deny. So are we going to stick just because our forefathers and watch us languishing in poverty, watch us languishing in misery? In case you just forgot, when you are being given with the right hand, you are going to give it back with the left hand. Who told you there are things for free? Nothing is for free. You talk of being surprised, then talk when they come to colonize. Just as if you have forgotten, we are independent. We fight for what is ours. They come as a military invention to help us, not to colonize us, because the period of colonization is way too back for us. Then, bear in mind, Africa, we are in the third world group. We can't manage by ourselves. Why don't we accept? We are in the third world countries. We can't compete with the first world countries. They have better standards than us. Sitawa Marion, St. Cecilia Girls.
Musingu School, you have 1 minute as well.
You're saying that we are all independent. My colleague here has just told you that the French intervention in the Central African Republic has been quoted and been said that the Central African Republic remains currently and will remain for a long time under the influence of the French. You know the Swahili say, nguo ya kwazima haisitiri uchi. And aside from being allergic to the propaganda that is being spread by the proposers, I also grow wary of arguing facts and fiction and unbalanced and unsourced arguments. The facts are clear. We have given you examples, case studies, Rwanda, the Central African Republic, Libya, Nigeria, all recent activities in our continent that have taken place while we are watching. That proves one thing. We do not need military intervention. I rest my case.
To the ladies, I loved your energy. You were consistent, passionate, almost throughout. To the boys, you had good points. However, Rashid, with your good points, you gave us a dull presentation. Remember, style and presentation is very key. But when it came to Martin and Samson, you had good stats and you really gave in your best. I wish you all the best.
The question, St. Cecilia Girls, is this. Where have they intervened and it worked? All right? Because we know there are places where they have done that and now they're totally peaceful. You should have given us those examples. And for Musingu girls, the bad examples given. But I love the fact that I think Ali Rashid, you gave the example of Libya and spoke about how they left Libya and even the Libya now that we see. Nonetheless, you want to substantiate when you say that they were there just for oil. According to who, all right? Yes, there have been those allegations, but all those things are available, so you can tell us according to which newspaper or which online newspaper, whichever the one that you use.
St. Cecilia Girls and Musingu High School, it seems you matched evenly because you both scored 67%. Give both teams a round of applause.
Well, congratulations to the two teams on stage. We'd also like to say our big thank you to our audience and our viewers back home. Keep watching and keep the conversation going. Hashtag GDC for SDGs. A big shout out to Safaricom. And I have been your host, Austin Yumbok.
I am Mariam Bishar. Thank you for watching.
The Great Debaters Contest is powered by Blaze, by Safaricom, the Youth Network.